Hello, and thank you for joining us. A federal judge is calling out the Trump administration for, quote, willful disregard of his court orders. Judge James Boasberg of the D.C. District Court said Wednesday there is probable cause to find the Trump administration in criminal contempt for defying his order to turn around flights that were involved in deportations under a wartime law known as the Alien Enemies Act. Last month, when President Trump invoked the law to send deportees to El Salvador's mega prison, Judge Boasberg ordered the administration to turn the flights around. That did not happen. The White House has gone on to attack Boasberg as a, quote, radical left judge. Kilmar Abrego Garcia was on one of those flights to El Salvador. The White House admits it sent him to that notorious mega prison due to an administrative error. But they have no plans to bring him back to the U.S., despite the Supreme Court saying it must facilitate his return. On Wednesday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt defended the administration's handling of the case.
Let me reiterate. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is an illegal alien, MS-13 gang member and foreign terrorist who was deported back to his home country.
CBS News Department of Justice reporter Jake Rosen joins us now. Jake, we have to add that there was a 2019 order from a judge saying he couldn't be deported specifically to El Salvador because of threats against his family. But why is Judge Boasberg taking this contempt step, and how is the DOJ responding?
Well, the central argument really from the Department of Justice here in not giving Judge Boasberg any of the answers that he sought on these flights is that he's not entitled to them because of the negotiations that went on between the Salvadoran government and the White House in terms of arranging these flights, but also they claim that they're sensitive operational details about these, how they move these migrants to this airbase in Texas before they were deported. However, Judge Boasberg said that he wasn't actually asking for any of that. He just wanted to know flight and operational details about where the planes were when he issued his order and other, how many people specifically were on those flights, etc. The big thing that we have to remember here is that Boasberg started these proceedings before the Supreme Court struck down his order that blocked these deportations. Those Alien Enemies Act deportations can continue in most parts of the country, but Judge Boasberg has not let these contempt proceedings go. A Department of Justice attorney basically provided and has stonewalled Boasberg with no answers through this entire process, admitting he told a couple people in the Department of Justice and State Department, Department of Homeland Security, that a judge had ordered those flights to turn around, but the attorney has not said who at the White House made the decision to keep those flights going. Boasberg said he's going to get to the bottom of it, even if he has to do live witness testimony and more depositions.
But Jake, if Judge Boasberg does refer this for criminal prosecution, wouldn't it just be up to the Justice Department to prosecute that case, the Trump administration's Justice Department?
Yes, and this is where it gets a little complicated, is because Boasberg said, assuming that the Trump administration has no interest in prosecuting themselves in terms of violating this judge's order, he says he has the power to appoint a prosecutor who would do that. So certainly there's more to be played out here in the next couple of days and weeks, as I'm sure the Department of Justice will continue to push back. We saw a White House statement and a Department of Justice statement saying that they've done nothing wrong and that they've asserted all along that President Trump has had the power under the Alien Enemies Act and also just his Article 2 powers as president to send those planes with alleged gang members wherever he wanted, whenever he wanted.
So let's turn to the case of Abrego Garcia. The Justice Department has released documents related to his past. What can you tell us?
Well, this stems from what Attorney General Pam Bondi said at a press conference earlier today. She was pressed by a reporter as to what immigration or what specific criminal charges do they have against this man, because he has never been convicted in a court of law of being a gang member. An immigration judge found that he was likely, as the result of a confidential informant, of being a potential MS-13 gang member. These documents have nothing new to them, but I would just like to point out that there are other allegations that the Department of Homeland Security and a spokesperson has been making online, accusing him of potentially abusing his wife. I just want to give a brief recap for our audience. The court records show that his wife sought a protective order in 2021 against him for alleged domestic abuse, and then that temporary restraining order was dismissed after his wife failed to show up for a court proceeding. The case really, we don't have many more details. There are allegations out there that he was physical with her. Our team is reporting more on that, but just kind of a scene setter of what the White House has then come out again today alleging.
Okay, Jake Rosen, thank you. CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi joins us now. Olivia, how is the White House responding to Judge Boasberg finding probable cause to hold the administration in contempt?
Yeah, Lindsay, it's good to be with you. The White House is responding particularly forcefully on this specific case. Earlier, Stephen Chung, the communications director, said that they plan to seek immediate appellate relief in this case. They go on to say the president is 100% committed to ensuring that terrorists and criminal illegal migrants are no longer a threat to Americans and communities across the country. I do want to note we are just getting reaction from the president himself. In a Truth Social post, he wrote that the courts are totally out of control. They seem to hate Trump so much that anything goes. He said, we're going to bring the country back from destruction caused by Democrats. This is him talking about the judge ruling against him, Judge Boasberg in particular, on this order. So now Trump himself is weighing in. But I do want to note that this issue on immigration is so politically potent for this White House and Trump himself. It's something he consistently on the campaign trail told advisors around him that it is the most important issue that he runs on, the most important thing he talks about, more than the economy, more than people's wallets, more than, ability to afford drugs, more than healthcare, more than anything. He says it's immigration. We've certainly seen that at the forefront as the administration has continued to not only in press conferences with Attorney General Pam Bondi that Jake was just talking about, but also today at the White House podium, putting forth Rachel Morin's mother, Patty Morin. She was someone who was unfortunately murdered at the hands of a migrant, but they want to keep putting this issue at the forefront as Trump is making a bet that these mass deportations that he wants to continue happening in the country are going to be something that's seen as a positive for his presidency.
Let's talk about tariffs. President Trump says Japanese negotiators were at the White House Wednesday to discuss a possible deal. What do we know?
Well, we're also hearing from him on Truth Social tonight about that. He's being particularly active tonight. He just said it's a great honor to have met with the Japanese delegation on trade. Big progress. Nothing else in particular. Of course, we learned this morning also on Truth Social that he was wrestling into a meeting with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who were meeting with the Japanese delegation today. He said in that post that he will attend the meeting along with them. They will discuss tariffs, the cost of military support, and quote, trade fairness. Now it's important to note that Trump did pause that 24% reciprocal tariff on Japanese products, but there's still a 10% tariff blanket across the board on all countries that Trump has put on, and a 25% tariff on automobiles. And that's particularly interesting because there are a lot of Japanese automobiles and automobile parts that we import into this country. That's certainly something Trump is looking at, something he wants to see go down as part of the broader trade deficit between the United States and Japan, which was certainly part of their meeting today. Lindsay?
Okay, Olivia Rinaldi, thank you.